Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our intimate and perfectly formed selected partner group for an exclusive conversation with Joanne Roney. And we're going to be focusing on Manchester and looking to the future. And Joanne, as you know, is Chief Exec of Manchester City Council. She's got many other titles and roles, but she's also the GM's rep on Core Cities. And we've also got the pleasure of her joining us on the Internationalisation and Marketing Advisory Board for Greater Manchester. She's doing great pioneering work. So the format of the next, say, 30, 35 minutes is a conversation style. I'll be asking questions that you've previously put forward to us. But if there is any additional points you'd like to make, just pop them in the chat and I'll try and get through to them throughout the conversation. So welcome to all of our partners. There's a really great selection of partners. We've got hotels, we've got sporting organisations, I'll let you guess who, and then a selection right across the visitor economy. So hello, John.
Hello. I was trying to look to see if I could see everybody, but I can't see everybody, but it's good to be here.
Yeah, this is live start, so they just see us, but they can see us. So just to kick off, Joanne, in terms of the last 6 months, it's no doubt being the most challenging period of time, both as individuals and businesses. And in terms of setting the tone of the conversation, rather than looking at the negatives, I just wondered if we could start off with maybe some positives, of any positives that have come out of this period, either activity or campaigns or anything that you're proud of or Manchester City Council is proud of in the last 6 months. Let's kick off with that one.
Okay. Yeah, actually taking a moment of reflection there, there is actually quite a lot to be proud of, if not positive. And I think I'm going to start with the speed at which we responded to the kind of lockdown and the emergency. And I've got to start really by paying a tribute to my staff, who were phenomenal, really, in setting up support hubs and arrangements to protect the most vulnerable people, do extensive food distribution, medicine distribution, everything really that we did in those first few months were just phenomenal, you know. And also, you know, a major employer, I employ 7,700 staff in my own right, getting my workforce to readapt very quickly to sustaining services in COVID secure whilst we deployed resource to protecting our most vulnerable in the city was outstanding, really. I'm genuinely outstanding. And I guess the second thing I'm going to say is, as always, it's the partnerships in Manchester that make the difference. So it's so effortless. I can't tell you how much I don't take it for granted, our ability to pick up the phone and speak to each other and to just get stuff happen. And I think, you know, just taking a moment to reflect on the way in which we were able to redeploy space really quickly to get our key workers back into kind of COVID secure work, to get PPE distributed and delivered so quickly, and not just because of the audience here, but the way our hospitality sector and our businesses responded to readjusting and getting back to some form of kind of service provision and some form of business as usual, was outstanding, really. And we did all of that through massive collaboration and conversation, and it was what kept me going, actually, through some pretty tough times. There was always somebody 24/7 on the phone, or if I didn't know, I knew somebody I could ring, you know, somebody who would get me the answer. And yeah, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, a lot of hard work, Joanne. I think Manchester stood out, I think, in that early because of the speed of reaction and that ecosystem of partnership work. And I know that, you know, most of the people on the call today had a part in that. So all hotels in Manchester Central completely taken over. Everyone kind of rallied around together, whether it be getting beds for key workers or toiletries for vulnerable people. Everybody played their part. It's quite special, I think.
And 10 days or something. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. Just ridiculous. Really good. And it's good to smile looking back on that as a reflection, as you say. And I think now, you know, months in, tourism, hospitality and leisure has been hit, probably the hardest hit of them all in terms of economic. And I think in terms of what we're trying to do as Manchester going forward, have you any messages or encouragement of how Manchester, in particular the city centre and our busy towns around Greater Manchester, will recover?
So, this is the big question, isn't it? And this is the tricky question. And there's 3 points I'd make, really. I think in parallel to dealing with the emergency and the kind of adjustments, we have also consulted extensively in the future of the city and Manchester Refresh. And I think that's important that we've done this in parallel, because we need to pick out the things from COVID that will become our new way of working and cement that. And I think we also need to readjust our values. And we've done this extensive consultation. And, what really comes through again is how important the vibrancy and the culture of our city is. And then I look at the reality of our cultural industries, our hospitality sector, and how and our retail sector, and how badly they've been hit and continue to be hit. And, I'm in the middle of coming to the end of furlough at the moment for a number of people, and I look at, no matter how many graphs I look at, they're all going the wrong way, and it is looking extremely worrying. So it's a very live question. What I know is that we know that the DNA of Manchester has got to be retained and sustained. We know that comes from having a degree of independence around kind of some of our venues and some of our offers. It's not all big chains, national. There's a lot of startups, independents, entrepreneurs. There's a lot of cultural and fresh thinking. We got to hold on to that, and it's going to be my job is to continue to lobby extensively with government and with Sir Richard to try and get those support packages in place for those sectors that are so crucial in the city. And we do that, and we continue to do that. We continue to point out the folly of some sort of impacts that that massively damage the nighttime economy at a time when the rationale for them coming in is to protect people, but actually it's having a perverse effect. My job is to kind of lobby for that and make sure that we continue to spell out the significance of these sectors to the vibrancy and the continuation of a city like Manchester, and do as much as we can to accelerate. If I say bounce back, it's the return, isn't it? The return of those sectors. And I know that we can't say everything's going to go back to being exactly as it was. There was an argument that there was trajectories for retail that were struggling in some areas anyway, but we mustn't lose everything. We mustn't lose everything. And we must be really, really clear how important some of these sectors are to Manchester.
Yeah, you're right, Joanne. And we know you lobby. I think in terms of your core cities work, I don't know how many reports I've seen that have come back from a national point of view, and I can almost see the lines that you've put in for Manchester. I know that Joanne Roney has been there and been inputting for us. And I guess looking forward then to the next 5 years, we've been looking at recovery. Well, we're still in emergency, we're still in a crisis, really, aren't we? So it's supporting that. But we've been looking to, when will we look at potentially coming back to pre-COVID terms? Visit Britain, for instance, are pushing out the domestic recovery not until 2022, maybe 3 for international. So in terms of thinking about the next 5 years, what realistically could that economy look like in 5 years' time? Because last time, holding on to those things, Michelin star, we were riding high. In January, we had great partnerships. We've got huge cultural venues that are going to open. They're still going to open. But in terms of next 5 years, what will that look like for our economy, do you think?
So I think there's a few things in train here. So one is the cross-sector business sounding board that we've had in place that Chris Oakes is chairing, which is really us get into the kind of what are the recovery steps for individual sectors, and I think that's important. And secondly, there are some things that we think for the city, particularly around physical place, that we think about being more permanent. That shift to outdoor areas, the bits where we did hold on to recovery, elements of recovery and continuity, was when we closed streets, made it more pedestrianised, opened up public spaces. You know, there's a lot of that we need to hold on to. So there's the physical redesign of what the city is going to look like that we need to make permanent and build that back into our future, which creates opportunities, certainly for the hospitality sector and others. The airport is massively important to us, massively important in terms of our international reach. And you can't talk about Brexit without talking about international reach. I don't see how we can be in any conversation with the government who wants to talk about Brexit and us talk about saving our aviation industry and supporting our airport, and very, very loud on that point, and finding financial strategies. I guess the next one is our investment plan. So this is where we're working both as a city but also as GM. And I've been, throughout this, I've been on the National Working Party, which is a cross-government national working party, looking at how we do economic recovery in the UK, short-term, long-term. And it is pretty clear that the first phase has to be infrastructure investment back into our cities. That's got to be underpinned by a sustainable public sector, I might add. So I'm sure there are others with financial difficulties in their businesses, but to be having this conversation at a time when I'm also setting a budget next month that's a 30% reduction, it becomes incredibly challenging. So we need to have a sustainable public service with a credible investment plan that really helps us accelerate. And then the third bit is the jobs and industry support, the business and jobs industry support. And she said I'm lead on skills. So we've seen some initiatives already, Kickstart programs, we've seen Future Jobs program coming forward, more of that really, to genuinely, but you don't take somebody from one sector and move into another sector without needing to have some skills packages along that. And you don't businesses grow unless they've got support to sustain additional training and investment. So bringing all of this together is our major proposals at the minute. But the only thing I would say, to kind of put a little bit of a kind of light on this, because it all sounds a bit like loads of meetings and loads of strategies, and whilst that might be my week, it's about outcomes that matter. And although these are coming through drib, we are expecting big announcements in the comprehensive spending review. We expect, and the bit of good news I was going to put in this was last week's planning committee in Manchester. We had £1 billion worth of investment decisions announced last week in the city. So I am taking that confidence is still high. Investment is still there. To be redesigned, rethinking, but confidence in the city is looking good. What I need to do is make sure I've got the whole package that sustains that confidence. So the skills, the infrastructure, the access to capital and finance, and the plans to deliver, the capacity to deliver on those. Now, that's great, but that doesn't mean that there aren't challenges in certain sectors, and leisure, sport and culture, I think by a mile have been the most hardest hit sectors. But in the city, I should say, and across GM, Manchester more than anywhere else across GM. And what goes with that is the people who are affected. It's women, workers, it's self-employed, it's creatives, and I haven't got I don't want the city to have a 5-year time lag to address that. We need some quick measures now that can help address some of those challenges.
Yeah, great to hear that infrastructure is still up there, and hearing quite bullish in terms of the pipeline. There's still 95% of all the projects are still going ahead, which is probably news to everyone's ears on this call. Yeah,
I think one of the things I would say is one of the highlights is that we have. I mean, what Manchester's good at, as well as its partnerships, it's future thinking, and it's being ahead of the game. So we are lucky in that sense that we had big pipeline projects, Factory, Northern Gateway, Mayfield, HS2 at Piccadilly, massive big projects. They have carried on, they have been on site and they have been progressing throughout, and they're all still secured. So I think by having big, bold pipeline projects with the right capacity alongside them, we can continue to accelerate. They've slowed down, there's delayed, but it's about acceleration, and the confidence is still there in those pipelines, those catalysts, and we need to work up even more behind them. So as always, the ambition, utterly undaunted. Just carry on.
I'm just so glad we've had this conversation, because I'm very excited just about this. It's probably the most positive conversation I've had for a long time, Joanne. And I suppose in terms of Marketing Manchester and our partners, with Manchester City Council, we've had a long relationship. In fact, it's coming up to a quarter of a century next April, 25 years, when we were established after until Manchester Central as it was then. So, and in terms of the Internationalisation Board, we're lucky to have you on there. What would you see as Marketing Manchester's and our partners' role in playing in terms of that emergency and then coming out into recovery over the next 3 or 4 years?
So I don't think there's ever been a better time or a time when we need you more, to be honest. The marketing and the repositioning this city and that building of confidence is what we need you for. It's that bringing together the narrative of the different sectors, and also for GM. I'm talking about the city here because we have some very bespoke challenges in the city. Yeah. But that underlying principle of wanting all of GM to be successful is completely key to us. And I think, well, I would say, so yes, more of doing what you do and continuing to do what you do, although there may be some nuances in the messaging around that. Us being open for business and you being the doorway that helps enable that is incredibly important. But I think the bit that shifted for me is the linkages, particularly across the north. And what COVID has shown, and if I'm sounding upbeat, it's because I want to be in that space. But it's not hard to also take a step back and remind ourselves that hundreds of people have lost their lives, and economy, sectors have lost. We've lost businesses that were brilliant. People have lost their jobs. There's a big dark kind of cloud there that I'm not ignoring. What I'm finding as a response to that is the increased narrative around how badly hit northern cities have been.
Yeah.
Therefore, the connectivity point around northern cities is growing. So to your point about Marketing Manchester, well, you're one of the strongest, most effective, most cost efficient and utterly brilliant organisations that do tourism and marketing in the north.
Yeah.
I think you give Visit Scotland a run for its money, don't you? So if we could get equal parity of funding for a kind of north momentum, that would be amazing. And I genuinely think there'll be a lot more to go at in terms of how do we genuinely join up northern cities, and how do we pitch ourselves for trade and investment, part of that northern levelling up agenda. So I think in Marketing Manchester, yes, but Marketing Manchester Plus going networks will be strengthened. And frankly, in other parts of the north, they're struggling with, they haven't got the capacity that we've built over time here. So I think it becomes increasingly important, and we're very lucky to have you. We're very lucky to have you.
Thanks, Joanne. I think the Northern Gateway, we have the work we've done on that partnership over the last 3 or 4 years in particular, and on the investment side. So with the tourism side, with DMOs, has really paid a really strong foundation to go forward. So we do glue together. I'm just going to pause to take a question that's come in from Sean. Sean White from Manchester Central. So you'll have heard this before. Big employers to be abandoning the city centre with no firm plans to return. We came to Manchester to harness the spirit, talent, attitude and creativity of the city. It's clear that the 9 to 5 commute is changing for the better, and traditional Monday to Friday will change, but the city needs stability and firms responsibility to that. So in the city and the local authorities do to encourage employees to do the right thing. And I'll probably just inject there in terms of, my team just love campaigning, but we've got a balance between campaigning and what's safe. So but our partners want our campaigns, whether that be to bring, commuters back in or giving confidence, having a hotel campaign or a cultural campaign. We've always got to balance that, but it's kind of straining at the moment because businesses, hotels are still at 25% occupancy. Events can't run. It's just,
I think
so. What to Sean?
So I understand the point Sean's making. I mean, I think we've seen peaks and troughs in terms of the large employers coming back. So some have, some haven't. But as a sort of general rule, because of the COVID secure arrangements that are having to be put in place, there's a sort of 30 to 40% of the workforce around as a general rule. I mean, it changes in some. Some are back more than that. What is clear is that pattern of work will change.
Yeah.
I think that links back to my point about us thinking differently about our physical space in the city to that. And I mean, I guess the thing that's really hit us is the events and the conferencing market. I think we've been hugely affected by that. But I'm in the city. I live in the city. I get increasingly busier. I think it was pretty much coming back to normal. I think we're a little concerned that we are seeing people go into car usage. We thought for a moment there'd be a shift away from the car with flexible work patterns, people using public transport, but I think we have actually seen more people using their cars, which takes me to my zero carbon agenda, which causes me another headache. So these patterns are changing, and trying to get ahead of them it's a challenge for us, because a lot of this is driven by people's confidence around confidence in safe, secure public transport, confidence in COVID secure workplaces. Where we just have to keep plugging away at that. But I'd love to see the return to sporting events. I'd love to see the return to conferencing. I'd love to see, and I'm not least because I look better in flesh than I do on the screen, honestly. But I'm so of Zoom conferences and Zoom talking, that interaction. I'm desperate to see us return to that. But that in many ways, I need to go at the pace at which we can create confidence in the city, which is so influenced by national messaging and national approaches. So. But I get the point, Sean. The only takeaway I'll get from it is that we're working extensively with all our business. We've got a huge engagement strategy with businesses. We've done a lot of campaigns already about welcome back and encouraging people to come back. We've upped our ante around enforcement where people don't comply. Where people don't comply, we will take messages. We've had a couple of workplace outbreaks that have been dealt with. I think all I can do is continue to get the messages out there about where we're having outbreaks, where they occur, what the underlying issue is. So currently, you will all know it's students and student halls. We are not seeing unsafe workplaces. We are not seeing kind of at scale unsafe hospitality sector. And we keep pushing back to government to say we need to build confidence for people to come back into the city, which is why we're still thinking of having the Christmas market. Cancelled it. We're going to see COVID compliance. So, but the workplace patterns will change. I think we just need to adapt to that and to think about. But for me, Manchester has done most of its business after work, out of the office. I'll probably do more meetings. I'm going to say coffee shops, although, as you know, that might be a red or a white coffee that I'm drinking. But we tend to do a lot of our business through networking, and that's what's costing us, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and to Sean and Adrian's just echoed some of those points in terms of, starting up those campaigns and getting people back in again. But we have, I think there is hope in that all of the tier group that's come together, so the tourism industry economic recovery group, and we've been meeting weekly since the outbreak of this, so we've got to know each other well. We do stuff on our own, but we collectively come together as well, and we've got a support and recovery plan, because we're still in this crisis. It's going to be announced later this week or early next week, and it's a 8-point plan. You know, three of those points are looking at how we deal with the here and now, support, lobbying, The other 5 points are all looking to the future about building back. And so I'm really hoping that the whole team, all of us on that senior group will help. And
it's great to see.
Yeah.
It was great to see Home opening, wasn't it? It's great to see Home. It's all, yeah. For me, we are so desperate to get culture reopening and to start to market and pitch those leisure breaks as well in the city.
Yeah.
We just.
So the campaign's coming up. Have a Night on Us. We're going to have just coming up, and then the next one will be culture. And you know, Home is taking really good bookings. The Lowry Theatre's booked up. So forward bookings are looking pretty good. It's just getting through the next few months, and for some, it's pretty dire. So in terms of just moving to other big topics, I mean, the topic on yours is either infection rates, budgets, COVID. That's the big thing in town. But the other two issues that have been really important this year, one of them is obviously the climate change crisis. And I know that you and Manchester Council take it really seriously. And in terms of, you know, what changes and what approach do we see ourselves in Manchester, Greater Manchester, adapting to the climate change crisis?
So I think I touched on it briefly when I said that one of the things that's slightly damaging us at the moment is the return to the car journeys, and I think there's something about restating the safety of public transport and encouraging people to think differently. One of the positives has been the investment that we brought into cycling and walking through the summer. Although the cycling's tailed off a little bit, I think there was quite a lot of kind of cycling taking place in the summer, but less so in the winter. We have seen a sustained interest in walking, and we have seen and I think there is something about we underplay how beautiful walking around parts of Manchester are and Greater Manchester.
Yeah,
would like to see us do some more about promoting the green space that we've got, as well as protecting the green space that we've got. So zero carbon, it continues to be our major issue. We continue to be looking at ways that we can think about heat, energy, transport, infrastructure, and the big one will be retrofitting. Government are likely to put big packages out around retrofitting of housing, retrofitting offices, and significant funding into skills. So fast-tracking pathways into these new skill sets will be a major feature of our recovery as well.
Yeah, I think that the whole green agenda will see played out, and it's almost like the new, you know, it's growth of economy in a good way. It's got to be part of it. I know that I'm trying to bike in every other time I come in. It's a bit of a schlep in for me, but you know, that green agenda. We just finished some nice films for Salford, actually, green spaces in Salford, and we're hoping to do one when we, you know, in Mayfield. So there's plenty of green space, and you know, celebrating that and the work the whole region's done. So we're going to up that in terms of the messaging, because it doesn't always get through in terms of Manchester's greenness.
I think as well, that kind of so many people holidaying in the UK has been an interesting dimension, hasn't it? And where we've positioned Manchester as the gateway to Cumbria and other places, there's more of that, I think, that in terms of our future tourism strategy and those weekend breaks and indeed week breaks. So that city country dimension is increasing, I think. Yeah,
and it's an advantage for us because it's not so easy to do that in other cities. You know, we've got it on the doorstep, haven't we? Peak District, districts, into even to Snowdonia. We have partnered with Wales before as well. So, and another big topic, which has dominated some of the conversations this year, is on Black Lives Matter. It's a movement that matters, and just thought, can you share any reflections on that, either from a professional or personal standpoint?
Yeah, it's been so actually it's been an issue for the council for a while, really, around representation of workforce and acceleration of workforce. Kind of predated Black Lives Matter. It was more to do with kind of us asking ourselves some questions, but then surely the Black Lives movement escalates the kind of awareness, which is quite right. And COVID, of course, has a disproportionate impact on people with South Asian heritage or Black and Afro-Caribbean heritage. So all of these things come together. We did a workforce analysis, and to be honest, we had an independent review commissioned for the council, and it was heartbreaking. I'll be straight with you, it was heartbreaking. The lack of progress made by some of our staff, over-representation in the lowest grades, no representation at senior grades, little evidence of increased progression, and frankly, disproportionate levels of disciplinary action taken about Black staff. It was a real shock to an enlightened, equality championing city to say, look, as a council, we can take our eye off the ball. There's no way to hide this. Away from it, completely faced up to it. I completely champion this work. It's not enough to just say as a woman that I've broken through kind of barriers in my own career. The only test I've ever held to myself is, how am I helping others? How am I helping others? And frankly, working with my Black colleagues, it's clear that we haven't done enough. So we have commissioned some fantastic work. It's been taking place all through the summer with my Black colleagues themselves, leading a complete rethink, rewrite of every single process and procedure themselves, in terms of what more we should do, mentoring and supporting and challenging the leaders and leadership. We've done some really good work to reshape the council, and from the council, the reach out to our communities as well, to say, look, we own this as an agenda, and we have to do more about reaching out to make sure we are creating equality of opportunity for people very genuinely. And that does require some targeted action and some rethinking on the way we currently do things. And we need to be open to that. I guess the thing I would take away from that for me personally has been just listening to people's experiences and educating myself more.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Just because I think I've come through some sort of equality challenges for myself means that I think I understand, and I actually don't. So we have more to do to listen, and we definitely have more to do to change.
I can share that, Joanne. I've read more about it in the last, say, 3 or 4 months. As the growth company, we've been looking at as a senior team as how we deal, and there's so much to learn. First of all, I know the Northwest Business Leadership team are looking at it, and also the business organisations right across GM are looking at it as well. So I think the great thing about it is people are trying to understand more and what can be done. Yeah, it's a big issue. You mentioned being a female leader a couple of times, and I just thought perhaps the last but one question is, you've got a massive job. I think I counted out that apart from Westminster, a local authority, Manchester has the most visitors in any one local authority in Britain. It's massive. So that kudos. You joined the council, what, 3.5 years ago? Well known, worked yourself right the way up through local government, great track record, delivering major regeneration initiatives, and now this you've got, with a potential £1 billion investment portfolio. It's a huge job. So the question really is, what do you think that female leaders like yourselves bring? Is there anything different that you bring to such challenges?
Well, I don't know that if women necessarily bring anything different to male leaders. I think what you need as a skill set to do a job like this, I guess, is probably maybe less ego and more team. So I think, and being comfortable about that really, and being, I suppose, I don't achieve anything. I'm surrounded by an outstanding team of colleagues at all levels and partners. And as I've said, if I have a skill set, it's to galvanise and to bring together people. I suppose maybe you have to be a little bit fearless to end up being the first woman in Manchester. Maybe you need to be resilient. I don't know. Maybe those are characteristics I have. It's certainly been a roller coaster 4 years, that's for sure. Being in this city, as well as it being a big job with the challenges chucked at it. But I think any leader currently going through what we're all going through is faced with asking ourselves the same questions, isn't it? What's your vision? Can you plot a way through that? Can you galvanise the resources and the capacity around you? And look, none of us have led through a pandemic. None of us have done this. None of us have led an economic recovery through a pandemic. So nobody has got the answer.
No.
What we have got is a city of amazing people who can come together, and collectively we'll plot our way through this. And if I have a skill, it's about being accessible and open and encouraging of those conversations and those dialogues, and kind of not trying to pretend I've got the monopoly on the answers here, because that wouldn't be true and actually wouldn't be right. What we all have to carry on, having these conversations and working through what are the issues and what are the suggestions and what are the ideas. This is not this is not the time for hero leadership. This is the time for strategic, forward-thinking leadership that galvanises and motivates others and brings together the resources for all partners.
Well, I think that it's a kind of team
throughout. So
it's a team-based, inspiring answer, I think, to that question. And I think most of the people who are on, our partners who are on this call, I know that they've all had to experience that. The team takes forward, and it's the team that wins. And it's right across their own teams and cross teams, because it's such a tricky thing. We can't solve this with any one person or any organisation. It's got to be together, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just before I get to my final fun question to leave you on, Adrian's just asking what you feel about the housing market coming up over the coming years. So do we think we will continue to see the number of apartment blocks continue to grow? And what are the forward projections for the city centres living?
So the Greater Manchester Spatial Framework was due to be out this week, but it's been delayed a month on some final tweakings on the boundary between Stockport and Tameside. But actually the projections for the city centre and the projections for Manchester's household growth numbers haven't changed at all. As well as enjoying COVID, we'll be shortly embarking upon the census, which on the call is the most significant piece of work going on in parallel to COVID. All of our future funding rests on our census survey and population count. So any support from partners to help us get a really robust, strong census returns would be much welcomed. To answer you, Adrian, specifically, our population projections haven't changed. Confidence city centre hasn't changed. What will, I think, be increasingly of interest is the nature of the housing that's built in the city centre. There is an ongoing demand for or balance with affordable housing in the city centre, so increased asks for that. That is a challenge because of the viabilities, but there is a growing demand for affordable housing in the city centre, and also growing demand from an older age group around the city centre. So I think as a resident, a number of people who have lived in the city centre throughout COVID have been saying actually living in the city centre was brilliant. They really felt, although it got a bit scary when it all got a bit emptied out and the shops all shut, actually came back, and the sense of community in the city centre was quite palatable, quite powerful. So for older people, living in the city centre is an attraction. It has an attraction to it. So no, the short answer is confidence is still there. The planning pipeline for Resi Build in the city centre is as strong as ever. The nature and affordability issues are the way we've got the challenge. I should say, I guess there's something about the live work market as well.
Yeah.
It's changing a bit where people are, if that work-life balance is going to change, people want accommodation that's conducive to sort of live work. So communal space for work, but in your blocks, there's been a few applications coming around repurposing and redesigning some blocks in that way. And interestingly, very little car parking. So we'll be seeing less car parking, I think, in the city centre.
Bill, does you mean to go on then? Yeah.
This is the time to redesign the city of the future.
Yeah, brilliant. I think we are looking at a live work campaign. I think that's so important. We've never had space to do that. I think that'd be important. So thanks for your question, Adrian. So the final one, just to wrap up, Joanne, this is a really easy one on a lighter note. So choosing, we all want to get out. What would you choose for a night out? Would you go for dinner with friends or watching a band or something else? And where would you want to go? What would be your ideal night out?
Can I do both? Can I start with cocktails, go and see a band, have dinner, then go and see a band, and then carry on somewhere else? My best night out is one that ends the following morning. To getting back to really soon.
A perfect visitor. So on that point, I'll just draw to conclusions. So thanks so much. I really enjoyed that, Joanne. I think it's probably an uplifting 40 minutes that we could just all do with. Really enjoyed it. So we'll make sure that the Manchester City Council recovery plans and our own recovery plan for the tourism hospitality sectors shared amongst all our partners. Thanks, partners, all for joining. This is the first of a new programme of events that we're going to bring to you all, so watch out for them. So thanks very much. Take care, everybody.
Sean, I can see a load of questions are coming in. Have I answered everything that people want me to answer?
No, they just say your table at Manchester Gin Bar is still there and waits your return.
Next week would be good for that, yeah. And someone asking me about the City Council supporting local businesses.
It is, yes, Kumar.
Well, whatever grants we're able to give, we're giving. We're doing everything we can, really, in terms of whatever government support is announced, that we get it out the door as fast as we can. So that's the best we can do at the moment in terms of supporting businesses. But if anybody's struggling, they can come through. They can come through to me with or my business support team who are there. But we are extensively reaching out to businesses and doing everything we can within the schemes that we've got to help individuals and businesses. And if I've been upbeat about the future, please don't let anybody think that I'm dismissive of the challenge that's going on at the moment. It's really tough.
Yeah. And the business orgs, Kumar, have been lobbying. There was a press release that just went out last night from all the business organisations right across Greater Manchester that support about 300,000 businesses. So I think that's gone out to lobby for further furlough schemes, further extension of VAT. So there's many people, including Joanne's team, lobbying on behalf of this industry. Yeah.
Indeed. Do my best.
I think there's so many thank yous in the chat box, Joanne. Thank you so much. I know you're so busy, and especially this afternoon. I think you've just stepped away. You're going back into a hot meeting, I think. So thank you.
So National Board meeting while we talk. So I'm afraid I will go back and find out if any of my lobbying's had any effect this week, and if not, we live to fight another day. So great to see you all.
Great, thanks.
Really important. I hear from people. So. Great, keep in touch. And
the next one you'll be able to see everyone, Joanne. Speak to everyone. Thanks everyone for joining.
See you at a gin bar soon.
We will. We're on our way.